This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Darryl Parks On Demand.
And the weekend is here. Great television this past week. Christopher Dorner being burned out of that house in California. You had the cruise ship Triumph coming into shore and being docked in Mobile, Alabama. And also a piece of television you probably missed because it had to do with boring Senate hearings. About 5 years ago, it's been that long already, but about 5 years ago, your wealth decreased at least 40%, probably over 50% in many cases. Your house lost value, your 401k got halved. Your plans for your kids' education in college, they were sidetracked as the so-called investment banks teamed up like a pack of wolves and stole your money. And my money, too. Yet here we are almost 5 years after the economy cratered, and no one, not one, has gone to jail. Not a Wall Street bank CEO, not a stockbroker, not a local bank executive, not even a guy working as a loan originator at your local bank on the corner. No one has gone to jail. In fact, no one has even been brought up and gone on trial. No one has been prosecuted. Now, we can trace this story all the way back to the 1970s. You can trace it back to Carter and all through all the presidents. Through the 1970s and the 1980s and the 1990s and the 2000s and the 2000 teens. Not one president, not one administration has done anything. No, Carter, nope. The patron saint, Ronald Reagan, no. Bush 1, no. Clinton, he didn't do anything. Bush 2, he was in the pocket. Obama hasn't done a freaking thing. Not one. Now, as I have been one to say, I think when people go to public life and no matter what level of government it is, it could be on the county level, city level, whatever level, all the way up to the federal level. I think if you go into public life and you really want to serve, it is a calling. However, once you're sworn in to office, you are corrupted by the system. Look at the number of politicians that have gone into office, especially on the federal level, that have gone into office poor, broke, destitute, not having a nickel to their name, and within a few years, they're multimillionaires. And they do that making $175,000 a year. Good chunk of change. That's a good salary. But that doesn't make you a millionaire in a few short years. Yet somehow they accomplish it. And I think when new politicians are sworn into office, whether it is in the House or in the Senate, that they are there, they're sworn in, they smile on that first day as they're sworn in, and everyone is taking pictures, and they have all these great things that they want to do. And then within a couple of days, the leadership of the House or the leadership of the Senate grabs this new politician, this new congressman or senator, and pulls them into an office and says, "Hey, that's great what you said during the campaign. Sure, glad you're here, but let us explain to you how things really work, and you're not going to screw it up for us." And at that point, they're corrupted. Somehow I think that Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid, they haven't gotten with Elizabeth Warren yet, the new senator from Massachusetts. Because in great television this past week that you probably haven't seen, she finally asked the question to bank regulators at hearings regarding the last 5 years and the so-called investment banks and people being brought up and sent to trial.
Tell me a little bit about the last few times you've taken the biggest financial institutions on Wall Street all the way to a trial. Anybody? Chairman Curry?
To offer my perspective
Sure.
as a bank supervisor. We primarily view the tools that we have as mechanisms for correcting deficiencies. The primary motive for our enforcement actions is really to identify the problem and then demand a solution to it on an ongoing basis.
That's right. And then you set a price for that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to move this along. That's effectively a settlement. And what I'm asking is, when did you last take, and I know you haven't been there forever, so I'm really asking about the OCC, a large financial institution, a Wall Street bank, to trial?
The institutions I supervise, national banks and federal thrifts, we've actually had a fair number of consent orders. We do not have to bring people to in a trial or an
Well, I appreciate that you say you don't have to bring them to trial. My question is, when did you bring them to trial?
We have not had to do it as a practical matter to achieve our supervisory goals.
Now, what made that really good television was that individual and his body language. Now, you're in front of a Senate committee. You would think that you would be prepared. However, these bank regulators were there not prepared, or at least not prepared to answer the obvious question that over the last 5 years has never been asked by anyone in Congress, by any congressman, by any congresswoman, by any senator. The question has not been asked. Almost 5 years later, it finally was asked, and the bank regulators were unprepared. Not only that guy, all of them.
That's what everybody does. And so the question I'm really asking is, can you identify when you last took the Wall Street banks to trial?
I will have to get back to you with the specific information.
Bank regulators. Now, let me explain to you what a bank regulator is. These are the individuals in jobs to protect you and your interests from the jackals and predators that took the wealth 5 years ago. That's what they do. So in listening to those two individuals, who do you think they work for? Do you think they work for you? Or do you think they work for, Wall Street investment banks? You would think Wall Street investment banks, right? Individuals in jobs to protect you and your wealth and your interests from people trying to steal your wealth. And before I go on too far on this, just remember those bank regulators that seem not to be working for you or seem not to have a clue and unable to answer an obvious question. And let me remind you that you pay them with your tax dollars. Shocking. And that is why that was great television. A senator finally asking the obvious. The question that has not been asked year after year after year. You could see the stuttering. You could see the stammering, the bad body language of these bank regulators, because it's just precious. But you can see it. I have the video posted on my my blog on the website, 700WLW.com. Search the word Darryl. The bank regulators there to protect us, paid with your tax dollars, not protecting you. It's an important video. I ask that you watch it. And I also ask that you share it on your social network, because everyone needs to see these clowns that are not protecting you. They're protecting the billionaires who are trying to steal money from you. And by the way, this is still going on because here it is, 2013. We haven't learned a damn thing because the same thing is starting to happen again with all the cheap money out there. The exact same thing, which I'll explain in 4 minutes on 700 WLW. Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast. Meteorologist Katie Morgan saying today it's going to become cloudy, cold day. Some flurries possible with a high of around 30. Passing clouds and cold tonight. A low of 17. Tomorrow partly sunny. Still cold with a high of 32. Partly sunny now, 24. 700 WLW. I'm Darryl Parks. 513-749-7000. 1-800-THE-BIG-1. Pound 700 on AT&T. And it looks like Wall Street's coming after what you got left. You see, part of the problem right now is here we are almost 5 years after the economy cratered. You know, a lot of you probably looked at your 401k and you said, holy smokes. You gave a gasp when you went online and checked it out. I mean, within a matter of days, if you weren't paying attention, your worth in your 401k went down about 40%, maybe 50% or more, depending on how you had it invested. The question has finally been asked. It's an important and a simple question. It's obvious. Why has no one been prosecuted? You know, Bob writes on my Facebook page, Facebook.com, Darryl Parks. He says, at the risk of showing my ignorance, what laws were broken by the banks? Weren't they just grossly incompetent, taking stupid risks with people's money? I'm not trying to be a smartass here. I really don't know. Well, Bob, that's the point. No one knows because no one has been prosecuted and no one has been brought to trial. At the very least, with an investigation, we will find out if people did indeed break the law or if they didn't break the law. If they were skirting the law or just playing in the gray area of the law, we would find that out. But someone has a fear, whether it's the politicians or indeed the bankers. There is a fear, a clear fear, of even investigating or prosecuting. Who knows if they went to trial? They may be found innocent or not guilty. But we'll never know. And that is the question that Elizabeth Warren asked.
Tell me a little bit about the last few times you've taken the biggest financial institutions on Wall Street all the way to a trial. Anybody? Chairman Curry?
To offer my perspective
Sure.
as a bank supervisor. We primarily view the tools that we have as mechanisms for correcting deficiencies. The primary motive for our enforcement actions is really to identify the problem and then demand a solution to it on an ongoing basis.
That's right. And then you set a price for that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to move this along. It's effectively a settlement. And what I'm asking is, when did you last take, and I know you haven't been there forever, so I'm really asking about the OCC, a large financial institution, a Wall Street bank, to trial?
The institutions I supervise, national banks and federal thrifts, we've actually had a fairly fair number of consent orders. We do not have to bring people to in a trial or an
Well, I appreciate that you say you don't have to bring them to trial. My question is, when did you bring them to trial?
We have not had to do it as a practical matter to achieve our supervisory goals.
Now, I want to know in 12 months, if she gets corrupted, the new senator from Massachusetts, because would she be asking that question 12 months from now in a Senate hearing? That's another question I'd like to know. All right, 513-749-7000 should a line become available. Here's Jim. You're on the big one.
Hey, Darryl, I want to thank you for this segment. This is one of the greatest radio segments in the last 10 years. Everybody that knows how to do it, I'm going to download it. You should tell your kids, your friends. You should send it around the country for people to listen to this segment. Now, if I could just add two fact and a hearing to this. First of all, the question I would have is, should the regulators be brought to trial for entering into these cream puff consent orders that make an excuse not to have a trial? But there's two other facts I want to back you up with here. One is in many places, including a book called The Economic Elite Against the People of the United States of America by David DeGraw. He claims that the $17 trillion or so that was taken out in those bailouts and disappeared from everyone's 401k and all that, he claims if that was put into the United States, to the people, you could pay off every mortgage and every credit card in the United States. And he's not the only one to claim that, but it shows the magnitude of what I call the theft. Secondly, there's a hearing.
Wait, Jim, hold on. Go back. Where did the money go? Explain that again. The money disappeared, as you said. Right, it disappeared.
And that's the point. Where did it go? And that's what the next thing I was going to tell you. Congressman Grayson, who was a Democrat from Florida who got defeated in the secret computer count in 2012. In 2010, in that area, there was a hearing. And he had Ben Bernanke and some other of the Federal Reserve before him. And he said, where did that $17 trillion go? It might have been $14 trillion when he had, whatever it was. Where did that go? And the Federal Reserve people said, we don't know. And Grayson looks at him, obviously mocking. His face is mocking him. He says, "You don't know." And that went on for about 5 minutes. It was another great hearing. It wasn't exactly this question, but it was. And then Ron Paul did a similar job, but the Democrat Grayson actually did a better job. So I just wanted to back you up with those things. So
we don't know. It was an accounting error.
Well, that's what. Yeah. Hey, Jamie Dimon of the I can't remember what his bank was called right now, but when he went before the Senate a few months ago, and he came in there arrogant, I think it was J.P. Morgan, $2 billion disappeared.
No, it was more than that. It was upwards of $8 billion.
Yeah, it did raise. Yeah, and of course, if your local gal or guy at the Fifth Third or PNC, they have to balance to the penny before they go home. So he goes before the United States Senate and says, we lost it. And one of those idiot senators, I don't remember the name, but one of those idiot U.S. senators said, we can't criticize you. We lose $2 billion every day here in Washington.
That's a rounding error. Don't worry about it. A trillion here, a billion there. It doesn't matter. All right, coming up at 9:34, the King Dusty Rhodes. Because I have another question about money disappearing, and this time it's a little bit more, I still can't conceptualize this kind of money, but, $5.5 million of our money, of your money? Where is it if Toby Keith's bar closes at the bank? And trust me, I have some facts and figures that will blow your mind. And I also have a prediction about Toby Keith's I Love This Bar. The King joins us in about 5 minutes on the big one, 700 WLW. All right, so there's this attorney, Gregory McClure. He's the attorney for the company that owns Toby Keith's I Love This Bar at the banks. And he said they lease space behind us called the Tin Roof, which became a direct competitor. So there's a clause in there that says they can't have another country bar. So the Tin Roof, I guess, has booked a couple of country bands over the last year or so, and that is in violation with the contract. The lease for Toby Keith's. He said direct competitor. They advertise on the same radio station. They book the same bands. As soon as they remedy the situation, they'll get every penny owed. McClure said the bar is financially viable, but it will shut down if the issue is not resolved. So I looked at the complaint that was filed in front of the Honorable Tracy Winkler in the Hamilton County Clerk of Courts, who is an Hamilton County Clerk of Courts judge. Riverbanks Renaissance Phase 1A owner, LLC, who happened to be in Atlanta, v. CRGE Cincinnati, LLC, DBA, Toby Keith's I Love This Bar. All right, so Toby Keith's is on the hook for $41,066.67 per month in rent. The CRGE company out of Phoenix, Arizona. They are leasing 298,000 square feet of retail space at the banks at $4.20 per square foot. That's how it's taxed, which is $324,651.60 annually in taxes alone. That works out to $27,054 per month, plus the rent. They're on the hook for $68,120.97 per month, or annualized $817,451.64. That is before they hire or pay any personnel, pay the electric bill, or buy a case of beer. Hamilton County Auditor Dusty Rhodes, good morning.
Good morning. I love your numbers.
So, King.
Yes, sir.
You deal with numbers all the time, right? How does any business stay in business with a nut of $817,000 plus annually before they hire anybody or buy a case of beer?
Well, what they do is they get the government to and the taxpayers to subsidize their operation, and then it's easy. See, that's the deal. You've got to get the government, city, county, state, whatever, to underwrite the whole schmear, and then you can go crazy. I mean, you and I could open a soul food restaurant on the riverfront if somebody gave us $1 million.
Hey, wait a minute. That looks like a deal right now at Mahogany's compared to this. So we have given these guys $5.5 million, the city of Cincinnati and Hamilton County, in a loan that is never going to be paid back because they have a nut of $817,000 annually.
Kind of looks that way.
Yeah, so $5.5 million has been thrown in the street. Tax dollars. Hard-earned tax dollars.
Yeah, but don't you see it's in the public interest to create a yuppie paradise and country bars on the riverfront. That's one of the prime duties of government. Didn't you know that? I mean, you must have missed that part in
Well, wait a minute. I thought the government was there to provide police protection in case somebody was breaking in my house and wanting to shoot me in the back of the head.
No.
Or my house was burning down and I called the fire department to come and put the fire out.
No, that's not it.
Or if there was a snowstorm and we needed to have the street plowed. Not that either?
No. The primary purpose of government is to buy places like Tower Place and to build the paradise on the riverfront. That's what government's supposed to do with your money and mine. You can just forget the rest of it.
All right, Dusty Rhodes, Hamilton County Auditor, last honest politician in America. Dusty, do you join me in the prediction that Toby Keith's I Love This Bar will be the first bar to go out of business at the banks?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if I would predict it, but I wouldn't be surprised because this is what happens when the government gets into things and tries to force a market. Darryl, seriously, this area, it's time to step up. This area has 3, maybe 4 major problems that are being ignored right this moment, right as we speak. And the first one is the sewer situation. The federal government is forcing the expenditure of money we don't have. Your sewer bill, $3,000 to $4,000 a year, and it's coming right down the line.
Yep.
Okay? The next thing is the Brent Spence Bridge. This is critical to infrastructure in this area. We've got to have that thing solved. And the sewer issue, which is a federal mandate, and the Brent Spence Bridge, I'm looking to people like Rob Portman and Sherrod Brown and Brad Wenstrup and Steve Shabbat to get on the stick. The next issue is the stadiums. The county, the state still owes us $7.8 million of the $80 million they promised and are showing no signs of paying it. And maybe the fourth thing, although it doesn't affect the whole area, is the city pension fund, which is woefully underfunded and is going to run out of money. But instead of dealing with these issues, we're screwing around with country western bars on the riverfront, with pie-in-the-sky streetcars, and the next big thing, and my point is, let's take care of this stuff before we do anything else.
All right, Dusty Rhodes, let's talk about the streetcar real quick.
Right.
Okay? So now you have the streetcar, the estimates come back. Now we know why those bids were sealed a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Because they knew that those bids were anywhere between $26 and $43 million over what the city was estimating.
Right.
So how in hell does someone make that kind of mistake of $43 million, missing it by $43 million.
Because it's all wishful thinking, Darryl. This is the next big thing. You see, that's my point. These people can't finish the job at hand. They want the next big thing, and whether it's for their legacy or for because they think it's nice or for whatever reason, it's like kids in a candy store. They've got access to the public purse, and by God, this is what they want, and you're going to get it. And you are. We're all going to get it. I mean, it's good. It's getting to the point where people cannot afford to live here, and they're moving out.
Oh, no question.
Yeah,
no, Dusty, that has happened. That has happened in my neighborhood.
Right.
Numerous families, good families, that made our neighborhood strong. You know where I live in Anderson.
Sure.
You've been in my neighborhood.
Sure.
Good families that are making that community strong, that subdivision strong, and they're moving out. They're moving a couple of miles down the road to Claremont County.
Sure.
Right, and moving out of Hamilton County.
And this is the end game, and this is what's going to happen. And like I say, it's time for people to step up. It's time for the adults to take over and put an end to this madness. The city has absolutely no business doing that streetcar. They don't have the money. You can't fund it. They have no idea how they're going to pay for it. You're talking about moving those utilities. Some of the estimates are up around $40 million. And if you get those people from the city engineering department in a quiet place with a pitchfork at their throat, they're going to tell you the truth, and the truth is nothing like what these urban dreamers and visionaries are telling everybody. It's pie in the sky, and like I say, it's time to step up and put an end to this.
All right. So Dusty, you brought up Tower Place Mall that the city is going to close on Tuesday, I believe.
Right.
For $8.5 million. So I thought, well, look, if a private developer can't figure out how to get people to go to Tower Place Mall and maybe shop at the two stores that remained, which one was a Subway and the other was the I Love Cincinnati store, and buy a couple of T-shirts and trinkets there. I thought to myself, what could they possibly want Tower Place Mall for? And then I found out what they get with Tower Place Mall, and that is 1,623 parking spots. And the city of Cincinnati wants to privatize parking.
Yeah, that's right. They told us that parking is not a core function of city government. That was the latest pronouncement from the city manager. And then they turn right around and they buy what is, in essence, you're right, a parking facility.
Right.
Now, what is it? The story changes depending on the time of day or what somebody wants to do. And it's time to stop doing what we want to do and start doing what we have to do. That's the message, and it's just that simple. And if we don't, it's going to end, and it's not going to end well. And and you hate to see it happen. You just hate to see the whole thing unfolding. But it's like a car wreck in slow motion right before your eyes, Darryl.
Well, Toby Keith's, I love this bar. They got $5.5 million of our tax dollars. Your tax dollars, King, my tax dollars, everyone listening, their tax dollars if they live in Hamilton County or the city of Cincinnati. That's never going to be paid back. Yet you have a successful bar right across the river in Wilder named Bobby Mackey's, and Bobby Mackey's has never taken 1 cent.
Well, look at what used to be on the riverfront: Sleep Out Louie's, Flanagan Landings. I mean, January's and Oodles. These places were all thriving, and they didn't need taxpayer money. Oh, they could have. They would have been nice.
Sure.
But it'd be nice for any of us. You and I can start a business tomorrow if it's going to be underwritten by the taxpayers, and they're going to take the business risk. But that's not what it's all about. And the people that miss that important fact, you just wonder what they're thinking.
Well, now we know why Toby Keith's charges $9 a draft, more than they charge inside Great American Ballpark with the Votto price.
Jeez.
Yeah. I've never been in there, but many people around here have been into Toby Keith's, and in fact,
people go into a bar. I've never heard of that before either.
Yeah, it's shocking, I know, but but their first reaction of Toby Keith's is, my God, it's $9 a draft. All right, well, King, have a great weekend.
Hey, you do the same, Darryl.
All right,
bye-bye.
Hamilton County Auditor Dusty Rhodes, the last honest politician in America. It's 16, and oh, by the way, he's been saying I told you so, too. It's 16 in front of 10 on the big one, 700 WL. UC stunk it up last night. Got beat by Georgetown 62-55. Next game coming up on Thursday. But basketball action today. Xavier takes on Dayton at UD Arena today, about 50 miles north of the Xavier campus. You can hear that game starting at 11:33 this morning with the pregame show. Joe Sunderman and Byron Larkin with the call. Tip-off is scheduled for noon. Other games going on. It's Miami taking on Buffalo, 3:30 this afternoon. Have UK battling Tennessee, a 1 o'clock tip-off. Here that game on ESPN 1530. The sports station here in Cincinnati. And racing starting, Daytona, the action starting, this afternoon, the ARCA race, some racing happening tonight. And then next weekend, spring is another week closer as the running of the Daytona 500 happens a week from tomorrow. 513-749-7000, the number here into the bunker. Should a line become available, Elizabeth Warren, the new senator from Massachusetts, has not picked up or gotten the memo yet from the leadership in the Senate. She is starting to ask some obvious questions that haven't been asked over the last 5 years regarding the Wall Street banks and how they all teamed up like a pack of wolves to steal money from you about, almost 5 years ago. Let's head to Theo.
Yes.
Theo, you're on the big one.
Good morning, Darryl. Please bear with me for just a moment or two. I know you got a lot of things to talk about.
All right.
First of all,
number one,
Sheila Baird, a couple of weeks ago on Q&A on C-SPAN, Bob Lamb, who runs that.
And wait a minute, she's like the head of the FDIC, right?
Whatever. But anyway, she's written a book trying to explain how the Securities and Exchange Commission works, blah, 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 and it's so convoluted, you can't find anybody who did anything wrong and prosecute them. It's all set up. You can't do it.
Well, I got that. But you see what ends up happening if no investigation takes place, if no trial takes place, we'll never know what is going on.
It's set up that way so it can't happen, Darryl. That they're all working in cahoots. Now the second
I know that. I agree with you on that.
Okay. Now the second thing is Cincinnati is AKA Rome. It's burning, and Nero's fiddling is with his fiddle. His city council does. People are voting here. They leave and they take their assets with them, and that's why Cincinnati is going to be Detroit on the Ohio, and we are now in the U.S. of Greece.
All right, well, Theo, let's talk about people moving out of Hamilton County and moving out of the city of Cincinnati. 1950, I believe. It was either 1950 or 1960. The city of Cincinnati had its high water mark of population, and the population topped, it was like about 525,000 people. Today, the city of Cincinnati has about 290,000 people. All right. In general, the market, Cincinnati metro market, is about 2 million people, maybe a little over 2 million people. That has not really increased over the last number of decades. Yet you have this increase in population in Butler County. You have this increase in population in Warren County. You have this increase in population in northern Kentucky. And what that's showing is people are moving out of Hamilton County. They're staying in the area, but they're just saying, the hell with the high taxes, we're out of here.
That's right. That's what we all do. We vote with our feet.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
And that's what people are doing. And how many people do you have to lose?
Yeah, it's sad. It really is sad.
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
But, it's a shell game. It's sad. But, we will reap what we sow, Darryl.
I hear you, Theo.
All right, you have a good one, Darryl.
Hey, you too. Theo being ominous this morning. 7 in front of 10. I'm Darryl Parks. 700 WL6 this morning. Some advice for guys, for dudes. Some love advice. And guys, you're going to want to hear this. 10:06 here on 700 WLW. I'm Darryl Parks. 513-749-7000. And Carl, you're on the big one.
Well, good morning. Citibank has, I believe, $171 trillion, and these bundled derivatives, and Goldman Sachs has $42 trillion. Anyway, they all add up to like 3 times the size of the global economy. And the Fed's pumping $3 billion per day into buying back these things, and the banks are still getting profits from these buybacks.
Right.
And when
cheap money.
It's theft.
Of course.
And
the system is set up that way.
The people that need to be prosecuted are, first of all, the people that made these investments as AAA ratings, showing that these were AAA ratings.
Oh, Standard & Poor's and those agencies.
Yes, yeah. Because
they're being paid by the banks, so they're not going to say they're not AAA.
Well, exactly.
Right. They're getting big fees from the banks to give them AAA ratings.
So when this all started, and Bush was the first to put the $800 billion in there, all these banks had big parties, and then they all got big bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money went first.
Well, sure, it went into the pockets of executives, right.
And who pays this all?
Who pays it? You.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Carl, have a great weekend. It's a minute in front of 10 o'clock. Advice coming up at 10:06. Some love advice from your friend Darryl Parks. This is the home of the Reds, 700 WLW.